When we reviewed the Seasonic Synchro Q704, we first had to explain the fact Seasonic had a case, and secondly we had to tell you about Connect. Now, with the Arch Q503, we can take it for granted you fully understand what Connect is all about, although rest assured we're going to remind you. So we're dealing with a conventional case that puts a huge emphasis on the power supply and cable management. Just see the name on the box, Arch Q503 plus Connect. If you recall the Synchro Q704 from Seasonic, that Arch 503 is actually telling you something. The 5 means it's mid tower, the 7 on the previous model meant it was a full tower, the 03, 3 fans, the 04 had 4 fans. Once you understand that, it all begins to make sense. And the case is supplied with the Connect power unit. Let's have a look at the chassis. Off with this incredibly thick dark tempered glass. Identical panel on the back. Dust filter on the roof. Front panel is plastic. Simple pull and away it comes. So solid front panel with some mesh on the sides, which hopefully will flow some air. Once we're inside, we have 2 fans at the front, 1 fan at the rear. Unusual to see fans in these positions rather than spaced in the middle, or indeed 1 fan at the top, 1 fan in the middle. This fan would appear to be intended to pass air through the bottom over the storage and the power supply. Perhaps not such a surprise when you consider that Seasonic is of course a power supply manufacturer. And here we have the backbone of the Connect system, which is used to hook up the PC. The chassis itself feels familiar. I'm sure I've seen this chassis before, I cannot place it. If you know what it is or you've seen it elsewhere, please leave a comment below. The storage is unusual, so let's start there. The mount on the back of the motherboard tray supports 1 full-size hard drive or 2 SATA SSDs. The drive cage supports another hard drive, and it also has a combo bay. When it comes to cooling, at the front you can install 3 120s, so you can add a third 120 or 2 140s. In the roof you can install 2 120s or 2 140s, a 120 at the rear, and you can install 2 120s on the power supply shroud if you choose. You can install a 280 or 360 radiator in the front, a 240 or a 280 in the roof, or a 120 in the rear. Motherboard support goes up to E80X. There's easily space for a 300mm wide motherboard in this case, and the case supports an 80X power supply. But of course that is where this case deviates from the norm, because the Connect power supply is a huge part of the deal. There are 2 versions of the Arch Q503. The one has the Connect DGC 650. That's priced at £240 here in the UK, $240 in the States, €280 in the EU. Or you get this version with the DGC 750, priced at £256 here in the UK, $260 or €300. The DGC part, G means gold rated power supply, C means cabled, i.e. this main umbilical cord is fixed. And then we have this bag of cables we'll look at very shortly. The pricing leaves me a little bit confused. This DGC 750 is on sale in the UK. We were told it would be £160 before it launched, but I've actually found it on sale for £120. So depending on whether you take the case for £256 and then deduct £120 or £160, the bare case is either £95 or £136. £95 for this case, maybe. £136 would seem rather steep. So it very much depends on how much this Connect system costs. But no matter what, the Connect is a big part of the package. So the idea is that the power supply goes in there, connect the power supply to the distribution spine, and then we connect the short cables to the spine, which appear like magic through the grommets in the main compartment. So instead of dealing with unwieldy spaghetti, we just have to hook the cables up directly to the motherboard or to the storage. In my review of the Synchro Q704, I said it was a bit of a shame that the cables that come with the Connect package are the standard licorice type. I would have liked something with, I don't know, paracord, something a bit posher. However, that would undeniably cost plenty of money. Something like £50 would be my guess, and that would be a huge percentage. For the build in this Arch Q503, I'm using an NZXT N7Z590 motherboard, along with a Core i9 11900K. The reason for that is that this motherboard looks very smart, and I think it's going to really suit the Arch Q503. The other reason is that I've just recently reviewed an NZXT H7 case using this motherboard assembly. I've got very recent thermal data, and it's going to be a good way to double check the performance of the Seasonic case. Motherboard assembly installed, cables looking neat and tidy. As mentioned, it's a Core i9 11900K CPU in the NZXT motherboard, along with a Sabrent Rocket 4.0 SSD and some Patriot Viper Gaming DDR4 memory. And now it's time for the Noctua D15 cooler, which is going to be a tight fit inside the Arch Q503. However, it will go. And the final part of the puzzle is this Sapphire RX 6800 XT graphics card. And there we go, ready for the front panel and the glass. Let's do some noise checks, starting with all the fans running at 800 RPM. Next, we increase the speed of the fans to 1200 RPM. And now the fans are at full speed, so that's 1600 RPM for the case fans, 1500 RPM for the Noctua fan. Testing with a combination of Cinebench R23 and TimeSpy stress test, the system is pulling 600 watts at the wall socket, that's 190 watts for the CPU, 255 watts for the graphics. With the fans at 800 RPM, the CPU is 91 degrees, which is just about acceptable, the graphics 77. Increasing fan speed to 1200 RPM, the CPU is running at 85 degrees, which is okay, graphics drops a degree to 76. Ramping up the fans to full speed, which isn't really acceptable day to day, the CPU drops to 79 degrees, the graphics to 74 degrees. Let us be crystal clear, if you're interested in buying this case, you're buying it for the Connect package and that Seasonic logo on the back panel. Let's wrap up. What do I think of the Seasonic Connect Arch 503? Pros, the good points. Number one, top of the list. Seasonic Connect is innovative and interesting. Believe you me, it gladdens my heart to see a new feature, albeit we've seen this feature before, that is different but works and has a reason behind it, rather than yet more RGB or support for 12 hard drives. Connect, I like. I'd love to see more people using it. The glass panels are dark, but not too dark. Again, we often see cases that have black panels that are just like mirrors, and what's the point? If you're going to have tempered glass that is dark, you want to still see lighting within the system. You want to be able to see, in this instance, the Connect logo. The finished build looks smart and understated, and that's exactly what this case is all about. It has a good support for a decent range of cooling. We're not talking 480mm coolers or 420mm coolers, but you can put mainstream cooling inside this case, including a Noctua D15. The front I/O panel, which I don't think I've mentioned to this point, is perfectly acceptable. It's on the top of the chassis, has 2 Type A's, 1 Type C and headset jacks. Cons. The front panel is restrictive. This is a 600 watt PC and I was stressing it to 100%, which of course is the nature of a review. Perhaps a Core i9 is a touch ambitious in this particular instance. I'm quite confident if you use a Ryzen 5 or Core i5, Core i7, you'll have no trouble whatsoever. For gaming, without a shadow of a doubt, it will be fine. And the other point is, it's rather expensive. Obviously, this is a package. It's the Seasonic Connect and power supply along with a case, but it still ends up being quite a lot of money. It's almost inevitable because Seasonic cannot be making and selling a huge number of units, therefore the cost per unit has to be high. Taking all that together and giving Seasonic a pat on the back for some innovative and interesting engineering, we like this case.